Defiance Season 3, Episode 6, Where the Apples Fell. Now, coming off of last week's episode, it was pretty intense. Alak survives the camp, he escapes the camp, he gets back home. The first thing he does, he walks in, it's like, Alak has returned, Favi is, like, emotional and stuff, and she's super happy, and and I love the fact that they do the flashbacks to the last episode, or sort of a recap, where she talks about her memory of Alak as a young child, where she had to protect him, and she has all these motherly emotions and stuff, and then that's countered with the beginning, or the ending of last episode, beginning of this one, where he comes in, puts the knife straight to her, and it definitely didn't go the way I thought. I honestly thought that this was going to be a moment for Alak where he was really in control, because he's had some of those moments, but for the most part, he has very few and far between moments where he's really in control. Like when he was actually on the radio, that was kind of his thing. Even when Daytech was in prison, it was really, his mom that was running things and kind of leading him. And he was kind of just doing it because it was like the family name sort of thing. And his mother really couldn't do it because they wouldn't accept her. But he didn't want to do any of that crap to begin with. So I thought this was going to be a big moment for him. And it still was technically, because although it came because, of Nolan, he still did kind of have a moment of control throughout this episode where it was like, he kind of lost that battle and he got beat up by both his parents, which I really didn't expect, and that kind of sucks seeing that happen to me, because I feel like he did deserve that moment of full on control, because he had something to really be angry about, but he unfortunately gets beat up. Then Nolan comes in and he just, they did this, they're spies and this and that, so Daytech and Fabi have to go on the run, and that separates them very drastically by the end of this episode. And it was really cool. I really loved the way that they played this episode out. We learned some really cool stuff. We learned some really crazy stuff, especially mostly the Olmec thing. That was very interesting. And then we have like the split with the Tarr family, and it's like, three different directions. We have, of course, Alak and Luke. We have Daytech, who has been captured, and then Fabi Tarr, who is currently going to the Olmec, which could cause even more issues between the two of them and the relationship that they have, which who knows at this point. And also, they brought up a really great question with Amanda and Fabi when they had the fight, and she's like, I hope you go to your grave wondering why. I never even remotely thought of that. I thought it was just like, alright, she's a good person and you're nice to people, and that's pretty much it. And then she made it seem like it was this huge deal, and I'm like, well, now I have to wonder, why did she choose to leave her alive? Because she could have easily blown it up. I just figured she kind of did things bad enough to her. I figured, she kind of owed her. I mean, she killed her sister. When you think about that, you kind of owe me a lot, So I figured that was it, but she makes it seem like there's a lot more, and I hope that there's something we haven't even learned about these characters yet, and I would love to see that play out. I think that would be really interesting to get this new secret about Fabi and this weird connection she has to Amanda that even Amanda doesn't know about. Maybe it's something in their past during the Pale Wars, and Fabi never brought it up, but she saved Amanda or something like that when she was really young or something like that. I don't know really how the age thing works with their specific race or anything like that, but they made it a point to have that, and it's like, is it a big question? Did she say that just as a normal thing, like, oh, well, you saved me, why'd you save me, and that's it? Or is there something really special as to this reason? Because they did have a big fight, and she could have easily killed her. She won the fight, in a sense. I mean, she could have permanently won that fight, but she did kind of make it break even when she knocked Amanda out, and she was stabbed, and she decided to leave instead. So it did bring up a pretty interesting question there. I did enjoy that fight. It was fairly intense, because I was like, I don't know exactly how this is going to end, and Favi is, of course, pushed to the brink after killing the guard, and it's like, well, she's really not going to get away. I mean, they're both deemed terrorists, so it didn't matter. Just adding on to that really didn't make any difference, but it was something else. Someone else did die, and it was, this random deputy guy. Honestly, in all honesty, as soon as I saw him, I was like, that's just a random dead Asian guy right now. That's exactly what I thought. Like, they're just gonna, in a minute or so, Defiance will have just killed an Asian random character that we've never seen before, and that's exactly what happened. And I wasn't surprised. It was just like, here's this random guy who I've never seen ever. He's been deputized, and he's toast. That's all there was to it, and I knew that was happening. If he didn't die, that would have been a huge twist. Like, wow, never in television does anyone do that, where the random person actually captures the villain. They always do the simple thing. It's like, your gun's right on me, deflect and take you down, and unfortunately he's just dead now. So that just adds another thing, which they might talk about in the next episode, and it might lead them a little bit to certain dialogue lines with Daytag and some stuff that he has to say about his wife being strong and things like that. But just the way they kind of split the characters up, I thought was really cool. So we have Daytag, who's been captured, and he's gonna have to go through the whole jury thing. And I love what Nolan and Alak did to him, and just that entire scene was really awesome. Like, I knew Alak wasn't actually gonna die, but it was really great to see Daytag have that reaction, because we never get to see that, because he's Daytag, and really they've never been in that bad of a position where it was like immediate. It was like, even with Ramtak, it was like, I'm gonna hold on to your son, but it was never like, here's a gun to his head and I'm shooting off warning shots. So it was cool to see him freak out, and he's almost crying, and then they're like, yeah, I believe him, and he just starts laughing. And I really was surprised they didn't put the line in, but I honestly thought he was just gonna laugh and then say, like, I'm so proud of you. I thought that he was gonna say that for sure, and you can still tell that he was, because he's obviously laughing hysterically, and it was just a really great scene. It was really funny and just really cool at the same time, and he's just laughing, and he's like, clapping and stuff, like, just very well done. Like, you both played me, and it was just a great scene. I loved that. So that was really cool. It was still really intense, and it was just a great moment. I can't say of clarity, but it was a great moment of contrast for Daytag Tarr, who's always the be tough, be strong character, and he obviously showed throughout the last two seasons that he cared for Alak. But this was really the first time where it was like, he was freaking out. Like, this is my only child, and you can't kill him, man. So I love that scene for sure. It's probably my favorite scene in the episode, to be honest. But that was really cool. So he's captured. Favi's gonna cause some issues with the Omek again, I'm sure. The Omek themselves, we find out, can't even help in this battle, this oncoming onslaught from Ramtak, because they got to Earth because they were assisted by gravity, but they can't get back up because they don't have enough energy, which we find out in the later scene that they're close to having enough energy. I think it was like they're at 69 and they need 75%. So they're close to having enough energy to do something. It may not necessarily be get back up to their main ship or anything, but it was kind of cut off as like, once we're at this much percent, we'll be able to, and then it was kind of cut off. If I remember it, I could have just missed it. But that was an interesting scene. I didn't expect that to happen. Where it was like, okay, they have the father and daughter end up kissing by the end of this scene, and I'm assuming that led into them having sex or whatever. But that was weird. That was something I hadn't expected. It's obviously whatever the aliens do. That's the Omek specifically, at least, and maybe it's something related to the fact that that's maybe biologically that's how they have to procreate, and maybe they choose their family. I don't know. Whatever, they're gonna end up making up for their characters. I thought that was interesting. I did not expect that at all, and it was a random surprise. Just like, oh well, that's weird. I didn't see that one coming. So I'm sure that'll end up being revealed randomly to the rest of the characters throughout the season. So that'll be pretty interesting, especially from Nolan. I'd love to hear his dialogue on that and what random jokes he ends up making. But that should be interesting. I did like the scene where Nolan and Alak went there, and Alak's like, I know my mother's sent anywhere, and he was just grossed out, like, this sucks. I want to leave. So I like that scene. It was very genuine for his character. Like, let's go. Like, when Nolan's like, let's leave. He's just like, yeah, and he just casually walks off, but he didn't want to be there, and you could tell. So I like that scene. Learning about Ramtak and the fact that he has a family, one less member in that family now. Learning that he has a wife, possibly two sons. Like, I don't think they specified how many sons, but he has more than one son. And finding out that he's actually considered a traitor within the Votanus Collective, I thought was actually really, really cool. And it's like they still have their set plan where it's like, we want to basically take over Earth and kind of do our own thing, but they don't want him to go on this crazy crusade because they don't want to start up another Pale War. And I thought that was really cool. It's like he's actually beyond evil. It made him even cooler, actually, as a villain. It made him crazier because he ends up killing his wife at the end because she wants him to come back home, and he's like, well, I mean, either way, they're gonna know that he decided not to do that if his wife has gone there and then she just never returns. They're gonna be like, well, he probably killed her. They're gonna know that. It'd probably take a little bit more time, but they're gonna know that that's the case. Especially if once he goes to Defiance and it's like, oh well, here's the news, he attacked Defiance. But I thought it was really cool that even he is has broken off from the Votanus Collective as a whole, and he's like the one person, at least the one person that's showing right now, who's really going full force with destroy all humans and stuff like that. And we even got to see some of the other aliens in this episode talk about the VC like coming into Defiance and killing out all the humans. There's like the one big alien. He was like, they'll spare the seven races. I believe he said seven races, and they'll help us by like wiping out all the humans. So I thought that was pretty interesting, where we got to learn about the differences even between the alien races. Where one guy's like, I'm worried for my family, and the other guy's just like, don't worry about it. He's gonna kill the humans, and we'll be fine. So I thought that was a cool little bit of exposition, just kind of in passing, and then they went into like Fabi kind of getting some stuff and then killing the random guy. But I love that scene. Like, loved finding out about him as a character and finding out that he has a family and stuff like that. And then just him being an even crazier person. Like, he kills his wife and says she's a spy. So let's, march into Defiance and, finally take out all the humans. So I definitely love that. And like I said, it made him crazier. Like, she comes in one episode and he's super excited and stuff. And then it's like, oh, you're here to tell me that, they know I defected. And now I gotta kill you because you want me to come back home, but I don't want to. So he's really insane. He kills his wife and he's crying. Then he's like, I'm losing focus. I'm losing focus on what's important. And it just makes him an even crazier villain. So that's always really fun to watch. And then it seems like they're, based on the promo for the next episode, they're marching into Defiance in the next one. And Nolan has to kind of round up some random troops and hopefully defend the city. But I'm really excited. I did like this episode. It set up a lot of cool moments. A lot of conflict. We have the war coming to Defiance. We have the entire Tarr family kind of split up. We got a cool moment with Orisa and Alak, which I thought was actually really cool, with Orisa being, the opposite of the killer. This was her episode where, she wasn't really in it, but she had a really great moment, and I loved it, where she talks about how she had Luke and took him to look at the stars and stuff like that, and it was her moment of just peace and calm, where she doesn't have to do anything. And Nolan was, trying to help her have that moment. And I thought she had a really great moment, even though it was basically like one of two scenes of her in the entire episode. I really did love that scene as well. But overall, it was without a doubt a great episode with some great little reveals, like Ramtak and his family thing. I don't think that'll really make much of a difference. It was cool to learn that, but considering he killed his wife off, and I have to assume his sons are young, I don't know if it'll have much of an effect. If his sons are older, now that would be really interesting. If they decided to take vengeance out on him, if he ends up surviving this season, and then they come into the series next year, and they want to kind of take him out because he survived or he's on the run or something, that would be really interesting, because it's like, you killed our mom because you want to kill off all the humans. What the heck? So we got to kill you now for revenge for her. So that would be a cool thing to do if that ends up happening. We do learn about the guy who sold them weapons, which will be far more important in the next episode. I cannot remember the girl's name at all, but it was her ex-boyfriend who's selling the guns, and he's a traitor to the humans, yada yada yada. So he'll be in the next episode. There wasn't much to it. It's just, her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend. So they're going to try to trick him into coming into Defiance, which could be interesting as well if he ends up running into the VC and it's like, hey, I just play all the different parts, I sell to whoever. That might get him killed beforehand, but I think he'll end up in Defiance. But excited for the next episode. Unfortunately, I won't get to see that one either when it actually comes on, because I'm going to be out of town this weekend, which I was last weekend too, which is why I missed it. So it'll probably end up being the same for me, where I get to see it when I finally come back. But I love this episode. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know what you guys think about the whole Tarr storyline throughout this episode. Like, it ends with the 3 splits where they're all in very different positions in life and just futures like is very different. Alak seems to have the peaceful thing where he's, you know, he kind of looked up to Nolan a little bit. He wants to just be a good father. We have Daytek who's been captured, Fabi who's been stabbed and now has a definite opportunity to enhance her relationship with the Omek, which would of course damage his relationship with Kinsey. And I can't think of his name, but I feel like they've said Kinsey's like 5 times more than they've said his actual name. So they're all in very different locations, and I'm really excited to see what happens with Daytek because I highly doubt he'll die, and I don't think Fabi will either. And I mentioned this, I believe, last time. I'm hoping we don't end up losing even more characters because we already lost 2 main characters, and we just don't need to lose anymore. That would really, really suck. Also, I was surprised the Doctor wasn't in this episode, the one that they found. I thought he'd end up joining the cast as like a main character, but it could have just been that he's still in the town, and they just didn't put him in the episode because there was no point. But either way, I want to know what you guys think about this one, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.